It always starts off small. You notice something, a look, a tone, or even silence. You replay it, and then you replay it again, and then you replay it again, and then again. What if they're mad at me? What if I said something wrong to them? What if I never get over this? What if I'm not enough? That one thought, that one small, unassuming thought, becomes a lens. And before you even realize it, you're no longer looking at life through your own eyes, but instead through it. That thought isn't just in your mind anymore. Instead, it's completely transformed and overwhelmed your mind. It is your mind. We do not realize how quickly we hand over power to something. One insecurity, one past experience, or one half-truth that you were given, and you allow it to completely define you. We give these thoughts names: anxiety, doubt, shame, overthinking. But at the deep core, they're all just repeated beliefs that we've given too much authority to. Beliefs that were never actually questioned, but instead accepted. Beliefs that now sit at the throne of our inner world, deciding how we feel, how we act, and the things we deserve. The same thoughts we give power to are the same exact ones that can take it away. Because thoughts do not just live in your head. Instead, these thoughts shape your habits. They shape your relationships and your voice, the way you show up in a room, and the way you respond to love and care, or even the way you run away from it. They are the script living behind your life, and they are the script controlling everything you do. And when the wrong ones take the mic, the ones rooted in fear and rejection and comparison, you start living a life that doesn't even belong to you, and it doesn't better you. All it does is make you worse. You self-censor yourself, and you second-guess yourself, and you don't ask for what you want. You shrink yourself in conversations and avoid every risk. You call it humility, but all it really is just fear with better promotion. And the cruelest thing about it is that none of it actually feels like a choice. It just feels like you, and it feels like the things that your mind chooses. But it isn't you, and don't take it as it is. Instead, all it is a thought that you once believed in. It gave a little bit too much power to. And when you actually realize that and you come to terms with that reality, when you really see it, when you really understand it, something shifts within you. Because if it was just a thought that put the chains on you, then maybe it's just the same thought that can take them off. We talk about empowerment as if it's some sort of external force. It's a speech or a moment or a breakthrough. But the most radical form of empowerment is this. It's becoming aware of the stories that you've accepted, and then choosing different ones that actually benefit you this time. Maybe you grew up thinking that love had to be earned, that your worth was only measured in achievements, and that rest was a lazy act. It was something that you shouldn't be ever doing. Vulnerability was weakness, is what you were taught, wasn't it? These aren't universal truths. They are not realities. They're not actual philosophical things or fucking physical laws. Instead, all they are scripts. And they're scripts that somebody handed to you. Maybe it was unintentionally, maybe it was through their own trauma, maybe it was on purpose. But you kept reading from them through your whole life, and then they became your whole life. And I like to believe that isn't your fault. However, I also believe that it is your responsibility to remove them and rewrite them. Because the thoughts that you empower, they become your environment. They become your worldview. They become either your prison or your path. That's up to you. You can spend decades being loyal to a thought that was never actually true. Maybe something along the lines of, I'm just hard to love, or nothing ever actually works out for me, or I'm way too far behind. What's the point of even trying? All of that just becomes background noise until one day you realize that it's been driving your life the entire time. And the kicker, the magnum opus of this idea is that most of those thoughts never actually came from you. Like I said, they were inherited, maybe from parents, culture, social media, just your teacher back in year 4, some stupid shit like that. It's from people who projected their limits onto you, but just because you receive them doesn't mean you have to obey them. I'm going to go on a little side tangent fucking rant here, but I'm sure a lot of you have seen that video of the flea in the jar where the flea can jump, for instance, 20 meters, but they put it in a jar which can only jump 10 meters because there's a lid. And then the flea has a kid, and then that kid has a kid. And the original flea died. The original flea was the only one who knew that it could jump 20 meters. But since the kid didn't know that, and the kid's kid didn't know that, they take the lid off the jar. And guess what? They can't jump 20 meters anymore. Instead, they can only jump up to the 10-meter line. All I'm really saying, a bit of a rant, is that the limits that other people set upon you once they're removed, you're still bound by those limits unless you completely rewrite the way that you think, unless you disregard those limits from the moment you're born, from the moment you recognize them. That's basically the side tangent done. That was just off the top of my head. I don't know why I'm saying that. You are allowed to challenge those things. Instead of... Actually, no, I'm not going to say you're allowed to. You have to challenge those things. Because otherwise, they're going to continuously whisper in your ear every single time it is that you try to grow. There'll be the crabs in the bucket pulling you down every time you try and escape. You will hesitate before applying. You'll sabotage a relationship and you'll procrastinate the project. And instead of calling it your fault, of course, it's up to fate or it's up to instinct or it's just how I am, you know. It's not my fault. I've just been raised like this. But it's not how it is, and it is your fault. It's simply a thought that you never put on trial. So now I am telling you, I'm being that sign that you've been begging for. Put the fucking thought on trial. Be the judge, be the juror, be everything. Be your own lawyer, be their lawyer. Just put it on trial and comprehend why it's benefiting or not benefiting you. Because when the thought comes, maybe the thought is something along the lines of, I'll never be enough, or I always mess things up, they don't really care about me. Pause when you hear that thought and ask yourself, whose thought actually is this? Whose voice is ringing in my head when I hear these things? Where did I actually learn this? And what evidence do I actually have that these thoughts are true? Most of the time you'll realize and you'll come to the idea that it's not a fact. Instead, it's just familiarity. But if familiarity mattered, then water wouldn't fucking boil a fish if a fish has lived in water its whole life. And the familiarity of it is what makes it feel dangerous. But that's why it feels safe to so many people. Because safety it's a false sense of truth, you know, it's a false sense of hope and peace. But safety isn't actually truth. Sometimes safety is just repetition. And that is why so many people stay stuck. Not because they're broken, but instead because they confuse the voice of fear for the voice of reason. And the longer that you listen to it, the harder it gets to remember your own voice. So here's the work. Here's the things that you have to apply. Don't just add positive affirmations on top of toxic narratives. You have to dig and you have to question and you have to expose the toxic narratives and get rid of them. You have to consciously be the person to replace them. You can't just expect time to do it for you because all they will do is grow exponentially. When the old thought says you're falling behind, the new one says the new one says to that thought, I'm on my own timeline. When the old thought says, no one really understands you, the new one says, I choose to be seen, even if not everyone sees me. When the old thought says, this will never work out, I'm far too gone, you know, the new one says, maybe, but being stuck definitely won't. It's not about pretending that you won't struggle, or pretending that you don't have stress, or silencing every doubt. You know, I keep going on about these examples because I'm trying to help apply it to your life. All I'm going on about is deciding who gets the final word, and that you have to be the one to decide. Because the truth, the reality, the fucking kicker, I'll say it however many times, is that your mind can be a battlefield or it can be a workshop. One of them will drain you and the other one will build you. I'll leave it up to your intelligence to decide which one's which. But both of those will start with a thought no matter what. And the same thoughts that you gave power to, the ones that limited, scared you, and silenced you, are the exact same ones that can set you free if you stop letting them speak without being questioned. So reclaim your life, reclaim the script, and rewrite it. You are not bound by your thoughts. Instead, you are the one who chooses which thoughts to believe.